everybody, and welcome to episode 18 of the Heartbeat of Bartlett. Today we've got a very exciting show for you because we're going to be talking about all of the wonderful opportunities to purchase a new home in Bartlett or another community in the wonderful area that we live in. The Heartbeat of Bartlett is brought to you by the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and is sponsored by First South Financial. This podcast is built to showcase all of the wonderful amenities and businesses and people that make up the beating heart of the community of Bartlett. Today, I'm joined by a wonderful co-host, Pierce Cannon, from the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce. Pierce, will you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm the Director of Membership and Community Development at the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce. Just like we talked about the last episode, I've also lived in Bartlett my whole life. I love this city. My wife and I bought our first home that we're still in here. We even went through refinancing and that whole dance, which I'm sure we'll talk about too. But very excited to be here on this topic today.
Yeah, we're very excited that you're here as our co-host. And then our wonderful guest today is Jenny Breaux from First South Financial. She is a mortgage lending expert, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the mortgage environment right now. I mean, it's no secret that the mortgage environment has been very, very volatile over the past couple of years. But despite it being volatile, if you are in the market for a new home, if you want a new home or you need a new home, there shouldn't be any reason that you shouldn't get into this market. Isn't that right, Jenny?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, before you get into that, introduce yourself.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm Jenny Breaux. I work with First South Financial in the mortgage department there. I've been doing mortgages for over 10 years. I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi. Relocated up here right before COVID, so 2019. I love what I do, and the thing that I love about it is I get to help people get to home ownership. Sometimes it's not the directest path, and sometimes that can be the most fun and challenging to help people that didn't think they'd get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love doing it. Thank y'all so much for letting me join and talk to y'all.
I mean, it's so much fun. I'm really, really glad that, so we work together, but we actually don't see each other all that often, so it's good to actually be able to spend this time together.
She's at that headquarters at the tower. She has to let us down sometimes. And then come at it. I'm just kidding.
Everyone is always welcome.
Yes, we go. I'm there quite often. So, but yeah, we don't get to see each other because, I'm actually out in the field more. Mm-hmm. In the past, I think people came into branches more and did a lot of things inside branches. That's not the case anymore. Yeah. So I'm extremely mobile, and I'm very lucky that First South allows me to be as mobile as I am. So I can come to people where they are to help walk them through in the comfort of where they are. So I think that that's a good thing.
Well, I'm going to give a shameless plug to First South Financial. So a couple of our core values, one of our core values is to find a path to yes. And and you talked about that, working with our clients and getting them to that yes, whatever that curvy and down type path might be. And another one of our core values is service. Yep. And I think, the ability to take what we offer in terms of products and services and deliver them where our clients are is a huge benefit that we offer.
Absolutely. I mean, we have people come to us because they entrust us, mm-hmm. and we're there because they're a member, and we're to service them. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I love it. I think it's great. I love my job.
Well, that's awesome. We love you and the work that you do. Good. So now that the shameless plug is done,
that's right. Move on to the good stuff.
Move on to the good stuff. So when people are in the market for a new home, they've decided that they want to make a move, what are some of the things that they typically consider when selecting what neighborhood they're going to choose, what area they're going to live in?
Yeah, well, I'm going to back it up a little bit, but finding the right teammates, right? Mm-hmm. So the person that is going to walk them through that, which is kind of the coach, which would be the person that's giving the loan for it. If they had all the cash, then they wouldn't need me. But finding the right coach is the right thing. Then also following that right real estate professional that knows the area, because proximity to whatever amenities they want or need for their family and their lifestyle are a really important part of that. And Pierce, you could probably talk forever and a day on Bartlett and how y'all work on that. But access to transportation, safety, community atmosphere, which I know that in past podcast y'all touched on those things through Bartlett. But those are some really important things. And then also just knowing that ultimately this is an investment. And so property values, where you're putting your money is in that collateral, in that home, in that investment. And so you really want to be in an area that's going to have the return on that area. So you definitely want to think about those things. Then, of course, I mean, you know, if you're not in Bartlett, but maybe on the beach, you've got hurricanes and there's natural kind of things. So what your area has that would affect your asset, those kind of things. But Pierce, do you have things about Bartlett that would touch on any of those things?
Yeah. So other than just growing up in Bartlett and kind of knew what I was getting into, you know, the affordability was a huge drive for us, you know, so that was kind of the driving force for us staying in Bartlett, looking in Bartlett. You know, I think at the time, so we've been in our house about 8 years. At the time, we probably looked at about 20 or so houses, and we were just ready to find that one home. And, you know, it's hard to find the footprint that makes sense, but also, how's this neighborhood?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
What's that like? And, you know, so when we looked at the house that we eventually bought, we saw kids running down the street. And I will say this, you know, our mortgage broker that we worked with was with us every step of the way.
Good.
And so I'd like to hear what your plan is. So if people are approaching you, what's kind of the first step in getting someone ready to buy the house?
Yeah, I think first we talk about do they have already a set budget, right? On their monthly budget. Some people come to me with that set budget, and that's where that is, and then we can back it up to how much of a loan that is. Of course, that's the easiest route.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen. The second part is let's get that income, and let me do the calculations of the income and debt, where how much money you're making versus how much is already going out. So we know what capacity that you can have within your monthly budget. So helping people walk through that monthly budget and then backing it up to a loan amount is really our key beginning to start on that. Now, there's a ton of hurdles that go through each kind of loan that you have to, you know, that you're getting. And there's different loans that you can get, which let's go ahead and talk about that, right?
Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, I think it can be daunting for people who are not I find this just in financial services in general. Like when you're in it every day, you do kind of gain this sense of familiarity.
Absolutely.
But I mean, when you are buying a home once every decade, maybe once in a lifetime, and you look at all of these like acronyms, FHA, VA, etc., it doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. So if you can kind of describe what the different loan types are and who they might be right for.
Yeah, I mean, so our industry, of course, with the acronyms, it's just like anything else, like in sports.
Yeah.
You know, like as soon as you know what RBI is, you know what that is. Right? So we like to shorten things, and we also like to talk a lot. So shorten things allows us to talk more. But you basically have government-backed loans, and you have Fannie Mae and Freddie, which are agency loans on there. Now, there is portfolio, which each financial institution kind of makes their own type of hurdles, I'll say, to get to those. But my job is to basically take all your information, look at which one fits, kind of like Tetris, right? And then give you those options and say, this is what you would be approved for this, and this is what you would be approved for on this. And then us talk about the pros and cons of each one. Some of these loans are area specific, right? So USDA is a rural development loan. Right. It's going to be outside of an area, and that's because they're turning these farmlands into housing and those kind of things. Those have no down payment with it. But there's also an income limit that goes with it. So there's so many, it's understandable that people get confused. And honestly, if it was really simple, I wouldn't have a job. So, but the main source of your loan officer is to break it down and not just say, oh, this is the loan for you. Yeah. It's, these are the loans that are available for you. These are the pros and cons of each one. This is the one that makes the most financial sense because the numbers never lie. And that's really what it is. The numbers never lie.
So, trick question.
Sure.
So it sounds like regardless of what a person's financial situation is, there is a possibility to home ownership. So the trick question is now a good time to buy?
Well, it's America, and it's always a possibility for home ownership, right? There's so many assistance programs that are in and around, and honestly, it's good for the economy for people to own their own house.
Yeah.
Right? It's good for your neighbors to own their own house. It's just good for the city to have that ownership, because now you own it and you're going to take care of it. Those kind of things. But what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
The second part of the question was, is now a good time to buy?
So everything is specific to that person's financial ends. And so that's where a person that is not being a service to you would say, absolutely, yes, let's get in there. Let's get in and see if this makes sense on your financial path to what your ultimate goal is. If I have somebody that's moving in a very transitory in an area, that's not going to reach their goals by getting into that. So really it's personal, and we need to look down and find out what your goals are. I really, really think that that younger people should sit down with a mortgage person even years before they're even thinking about getting a house. Yeah. So they can kind of say, okay, this is what my life I want it to look like. What do I need to do, the steps to get to that?
So, you know what? I think that's probably what you just said. I think that's a really valuable piece of advice. And I will tell you that when I prior to buying my first home, I never even suspected that a mortgage loan officer would talk to me before I was ready to be in the market. I get
that all the time.
Like, did you ever think that you could have a conversation with an advisor before you were ready to take any kind of action?
No, I didn't know that was available. And I think the interesting thing about what you do is there are a lot of people that just don't know that they don't know.
Right.
And so it could be that they're hesitant to get into the home buying market because they don't know where to start. But it sounds like you make it pretty easy for them.
Yeah, we just go and look at what they've got. I mean, some people are out there paying a lot for rent, and some people aren't paying a lot for rent. So are they comfortable where they are? Then should they move into a house that's going to be more? Or do they envision a family? Yeah. Do they envision, having more in their everyday life than, just being in maybe a shared apartment, So it's really set the goals, reach out to the circle that's there to help you get to those goals. And First South would be the first spot that you want to start with.
And again, kind of just reiterating your point, the opportunity to have the conversation is available to anybody at any time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't you think that the one thing that you wish you would have known when you were younger is that people want to help you? Yeah. So all you got to do is ask for what you want, and then there'll be people that will say, "Yeah, I know somebody." Yeah.
And and I do feel, and I have my oldest son is 21, and he's about to graduate from college, and he's so interested in home ownership. And I talked to him the other day about the first-time homebuyers programs that are available in every state, and he had no idea. And then because I told him about it, he started doing all of this research and just got really, really excited because he now feels like he feels like this dream that was not a possibility could be a possibility once he graduates from college.
I do hope that TikTok is not where he got most of his information. A lot of times I'm combating that information a lot. So where should people be looking for to get that's exactly
accurate and reasonable information?
That's very good. So the state housing websites are great. So Tennessee has a wonderful one. If he's moving to another state, check out those housing websites. If he knows the exact city he's going into, most of the time, like on Bartlett, they probably have some type of information about housing and those kind of things. Any kind of government kind of deal, but then also follow it up and try to find, especially if you're with a credit union, try to find a mortgage professional that's in that area that can really give you more insight into those things.
Can we shift for just a second?
Sure.
So I wanted to talk about the Fed and just kind of what's going on there. I know they just released another decrease, right?
No, not yet.
So Jerome Powell gave a speech a couple of days ago, and in that speech he implied that in the next Fed meeting on September 18th, that there could potentially maybe be rate cuts. But please do tell us about what that means.
So, it's interesting to me because when I was not in this business, following the Fed rate would have not probably been on my college to-do list. Now it's like constantly following. But basically the Feds have really one main tool in their tool chest. Now they've got this other thing that's called quantitative easement, but we're going to leave that alone for a minute. But they've got this one main tool, and it's changing how much it costs to borrow money. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so if they raise it, right, it costs more money, and businesses go, well, we're not going to expand because it's going to cost me too much money. If they lower it, they're going to let it go free, right? And so that makes whether or not the inflation. So basically, they have all these little reports throughout the year that they look back on and they say, okay, well, this is saying this. And the main things are unemployment and also inflation numbers. So what we've seen lately is unemployment go up and inflation go down, but we don't want unemployment to go too high. And so what they do is they say, okay, we're going to go ahead and start pulling back. So they basically signaled on this last one that, I always call him Papa Powell. But Papa Powell said, hey, look, we've seen enough documentation so far that we're going to lower it. I mean, it's really, there's nothing out there. There's 2 more reports that'll be coming out, but nobody in the market thinks that those are going to. Now, the question is how much?
Yeah.
Now, we went through a time where we got hit 4 times in a row of like 0.75 on rates, which is very quick. Increasing over and over again. So there's a lot of people out there that are wanting to see that half a point.
Sure.
But nobody's got a crystal ball, but 0.25 is what most people are, putting their money on at this point. You don't want to pull it back too quick to make sure inflation doesn't, there's a whole thing that has to happen to make sure that it's good.
There are 2 different things though. The Fed funds rate and mortgage rates are 2 different things. So say on September 18th, the Fed decides that they're going to reduce interest rates across the board by a quarter point. What does that mean for mortgage rates?
Yeah, so Fed fund rate is directly tied to things like HELOCs, credit cards, your car payments, those kind of things. Your mortgage is 30-year mortgage is kind of it gets affected, but not a direct. So it's not a direct. If they lower it by 0.25, it's just going to showing that it's lowering. It's not going to be an automatic 0.25 off of that. There's another, basically it's a secure overnight Fed that is with ARM loans. And so those are shorter term loans that rate is set for. Sure. So it's a little bit different. You have a long term and then but the Fed rate works with everything just because it changes how much it costs to borrow money. Yeah. And that filters into everything that is a loan on there. So that makes sense?
It totally does. And then so in that same, I love Papa Powell. I love that reference. I'm going to steal it if you don't mind.
I have a newsletter because that's part of they seem to like it too.
So in that same speech that Papa Powell gave, not only did he make an indication that in the September meeting that they were going to, it's kind of following along with what you were saying, that it's not going to be a sharp decrease right at once. So the Fed is also going to meet in October and November, and I think people are putting their money on a little bit of a decrease in each of those meetings.
And so the investors that are doing these mortgages, they're hedging, right? Mm-hmm. They're wondering whether it's going to actually hit or not. And that also affects, the rate that you get and those kind of things. When they think that it's going to be a big cut, they drop the rates. But then they might pull it back because they're like, oh, wait. He's not saying it's going to be a ton. So they're always reading little nuances into his discussion, which is kind of interesting.
So if I'm speculating, and that's all it is just Maria McLendon speculating. But if we're hearing this from the Fed right now, it could be an indicator that there's going to be an easing of rates over the next couple of months. And if you've been holding to get into the market because they've been high.
Right. So this is another thing. For every point that the 30-year mortgage rate drops, there's 5 million more people that are approved for that loan.
Wow.
So you've got to work a really good line. If a quarter of a point is going to make a difference on whether you're going to jump in the game and buy a house or not, you don't need to be in the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you wait for that quarter of a point or at half a point, now you got, hundreds of thousands of other people trying to go for the same house. And then we saw what happened with that, right?
Yeah.
So if the payment works within your budget and it gets you what you need in a house and it gets you in the area that you're in, make the move.
Yeah.
You can always come back later, work the math, and refinance it.
Yeah.
Bartlett, their appreciation is right there. It's like almost 2%, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got a couple of years, you sit on it, you make an appreciation, you come back around at First South because we're already watching it. Right?
Yeah.
And you brought up a good point because that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
We signed up for a 30-year loan. We got XYZ percentage. And then our loan officer actually reached out.
That's what a good loan officer is supposed to do.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't always happen, though, does it? Yeah. I bet you do it, though.
I did. Well,
So he reached out. He said, hey, I'm looking at this, and we can get you down a percentage point. And why don't we also look at a 15-year, right?
Yeah.
The cost difference was like $150 a month.
Exactly.
It was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So we were so appreciative of that, and I love that you did that, too.
Absolutely. You want to take care of the people that, that are in your book of business, obviously, because word of mouth is going to be
the ones that brought you to the dance.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that, they're your family now. And that's always some of the biggest compliments is afterwards getting reviewed and them saying, hey, she made me feel like I was like her friend or her family or something like that. And that's really what it is.
And okay, just shameless plug once again. So if you don't follow First South Financial on Facebook and Instagram and on all of the social medias, you absolutely should for myriad reasons. But once you do, you'll see all of Jenny's 5-star customer testimonials because I'm
extremely lucky.
I think it's because you work extremely hard, but it's one after the other after the other.
I try. I like my folks. That's for sure.
Well, they like you right back.
Good.
They're very appreciative.
What do y'all think they need to know before we're run out of time?
What are the current interest rates and APRs out there right now?
So they're going to go in kind of a range, right? And the range is because rates are dictated by your debt to income ratio, right? Because you're higher risk if you're up here.
Yep.
They're going to go by your credit score, right? You get a lower credit score, you're only going to have certain products that you're available to. And then if you're on the lower end of those products, then they're kind of higher risk, and you got to mitigate that risk somewhere. Those financial terms to mitigate. Loan to value, so how much money you put down, those kind of things. But an average 30-year loan is somewhere around 6 1/8 right now.
Okay.
So 6 1/4 sometimes up in there. It's really, the average from like 1970 until today, the average is 7.73.
Yeah.
So we went through this really long period after 2010 that was super low, below 5s. Sometimes more, a lot of us got more. And that, you got to realize too, that was a really big bulk of our society that was coming of age to get houses, right? So they, when I talk to somebody in their 60s and 70s and I say, oh, we've got a 5.99 today, they're like, clock it, let's go. Like they're thinking it's great. I talked to a first time buyer and they're like, oh my goodness, I didn't think it was going to be that high.
Sure.
Because the person that's 67 remembers the 80s, remembers that 14%, remembers that 12%. Yeah. You've got somebody that's 25, and all they remembers is those twos and threes. So there's a little bit of a blind side in rates on how much they are, but a really good economy churns around 5 to 6. I mean, in our world.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with the rates. I think that they will, I hope that they do continue to trend down, and we should, was what the market's saying, but who knows?
Yeah.
Got to make the best decision at the moment.
So amazingly, 30 minutes goes by super, super fast. We're coming up on the end of it. When we were off camera before we started, you said that you might want to ask a couple of questions to me and Pierce, and I'm here for it. Jenny, what are your questions for us?
So I'm always interested to find about people like, when did you buy your house?
Yeah.
And what was the reasons that you chose that particular house? I'll let you go first.
So literally 1 year ago today is when we moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Okay. Well, moved back because we lived here for a number of years, and then moved to Dallas for a short period of time, and then came back 1 year ago today. And so when we left the Memphis area the first time, we were living in very much the suburbs, like planned development, kind of cookie cutter homes. Like you can pick one of 5 different models, but that's all you've got in the neighborhood. Right. And you have to drive to go everywhere, which was convenient for us because we were raising kids and it was in a good school district. So good school district was one of the things that was really important to us. But then when we moved to Dallas, we lived in a much more, it wasn't urban, it was what I would describe as a neighborhood. So we had neighborhood streets, but on the end of those neighborhood streets was 7-Eleven and the local coffee shop, and shout out to my Dallas neighborhood, the best little pizza and wine bar. It was called Olivella's, walking distance to my house. And if you ordered between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock and picked up by 5 o'clock, you got to buy one, get one free pizza.
She never did that, people. You can tell she never did that. Never took advantage of that.
But I loved that neighborhood environment where you knew your neighbors, and like people were out all the time. Like people were like, I'm going to run up to 7-Eleven for a Coke. Yeah. Or I'm going to run up to the coffee shop.
They still have slushies.
They do still have slushies.
Look at there.
So my boys, when they were middle school and high school, like it was a neighborhood. So they would hang out with their friends and like be just down the street. Anyway, so that feeling was really important to me. So when we were looking in this area, that's what we talked to our realtor about, is that we want to be in an environment that feels like a neighborhood. And we have the ability to like walk to different things. If we wanted to, we don't necessarily need to, but like we want to be able to walk to a bunch of things. So the area we live in now, we have that. It's a really nice neighborhood where people kind of take care of each other. And it's proximate to lots of shops and restaurants and fun stuff.
Because your home is your own base.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's true too. Like when people suggest going to a restaurant that's more than like
outside your bubble.
Like, oh no, I can't. It's too far. I can't go.
And for you?
Yeah. So for us, we bought our house in 2016. We'd been married for a year. We started talking about building a family. And so I already was, pretty, I like Bartlett, I'm moving here. I know what to expect. So school definitely is important. We wanted to make sure we were getting in a good school. So my kids go to Oak Elementary. It's a great school. And then I would say the other thing is, we wanted to get into an area that was also close to a lot of amenities. So like really close to us is the Bartlett Recreation Center, which is now the Bartlett Y. So we can take the kids to the splash pad and the water adventure soon.
Yeah.
In the near future. But also like the hospital, right? So we've had a couple of instances over the years where something's happened and we need to go right now. And so we were really close to Bartlett St. Francis.
That's super important.
Yeah. So having that, giving us that peace of mind is good. But also, the Bartlett Police Department is fantastic. They do a great job of protecting us. And so we just felt comfortable where we were, and that's why we decided to do it.
Man, that sounds awesome. I always love hearing how people picked out where their home base was.
Yeah. And I mean, for us, I think this is not our first home. This is the third home that we've owned. And I think a lot of our decisions were made based on lessons that we've learned. You know?
Sometimes they're harder lessons.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're easy lessons. Some of it, but yes.
But I mean, again, coming full circle, I never realized that I could have access to a coach that could be helping me through that process long before I was ready to be in the market.
Absolutely. And there's no bigger fan than the mom of the kid that you helped figure out how to get a house, right?
Yeah.
There's nobody that's going to go out there and talk better about me than one of the friends sent her son to me, and he of course did not buy. He took another job in another place, which we can do that loan too, but he decided to rent because we did the numbers and it made sense. A little bit longer. And I think she's probably referred more people to me than anybody I've done a loan with, because she was just so thankful that we got to where it needed to be for him. And so
let me say this one quick thing. So when we were looking to buy, we had to get pre-qualified. There were 2 people we were recommended to. So I sent one message to one guy, one to the other. One guy was like, fill out this long application and then send it to me. The other guy was like, I'll do this application with you so you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
That just made such a huge difference to us.
Yeah.
You know, because we're busy. We're, you know, we both have careers and all that other stuff. But just that little touch.
Yeah.
And that was so nice.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah. I used to do that a little bit, but honestly now with people's names and spellings, and because if you get anything wrong when you pull a credit report, it's going to cost you more money in the long run. So I don't just send an application to somebody. I do make a phone call, but I explain to them the reason that I want them to fill out the application the way it is. Sure. And that's because I need you to get all of your information exactly right on the front end and don't have any mistakes. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how many people don't put senior or junior or first or second. And then we pull and it's somebody else's credit report entangled with that. So if it's on their mistake, then that's a little bit different than when I say, oh, I didn't ask if you were a junior, or, you know, which is on me to 100%. But, it is a little bit cumbersome if you take the application yourself. Because these days, almost everything is done digitally with digitally stamps. So that proves that you did take out an application and that I didn't just pull your information off of our site and take an application, because there has been banks that have gotten in trouble for that. So we want to make sure that we always keep it, you know,
on the up and up.
That's right. But I am glad that they did that for you. Yeah. And I'm glad that you had a good experience, because it sounds like a good loan officer. Yeah.
So as we are wrapping up, Jenny, if any of our viewers would like to get in touch with you or have questions or want to reach out, how can they reach you?
Sure. You can call me on my phone. It's 901-800-6697. You can always shoot me an email. It's jbreaux, that's BREAUX, as in X-ray, at firstsouth.com. You can always go to our website and go to the mortgage area. You'll see all of our loan officers underneath there with our pictures, and you pick which one you like the best. But happy to talk to anybody at any time and figure out how to map that way to home ownership for you.
Once again, this has been it's been a very fast 30 minutes of fun conversation. And Jenny, I appreciate you being here. I've learned a lot, and
thanks for coming. Yeah, good stuff. Really appreciate it.
Good information for all of our viewers out there as well.
Thank y'all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Heartbeat of Bartlett. We are delighted to be able to bring this podcast to you, and we couldn't bring it to you without the wonderful folks at V2 Media. Woo! Thank you also to the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce for presenting this program, and of course to First South Financial for supporting and underwriting it. And First South Financial loves the city of Bartlett and the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce, and we will see you next time.
Yay, bye.
Bye.